How do you escape an unstoppable evil when that evil is you? Step inside Jordan Peele's new original nightmare as Us comes to life at Universal's Halloween Horror Nights. Select nights September 6th through November 2nd. Experience Netflix's all-new Stranger Things, Dracula and the Wolfman, and more. Save up to $52 on select nights. Visit HalloweenHorrorNights.com. Online only. Restrictions apply. Not recommended for children under 13.
TV party tonight! TV party tonight! Oh,
We got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated to our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits! Everybody loves Hypnotoad! Scary Dog! Dancing at Blurnsville!
Futurama!
Oh, the hits just don't fucking stop on the Radulich and Broadcasting Network. This is my second podcast today. Hello. Welcome to a Radulich and Broadcasting Network premiere podcast TV party tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich. And tonight, our favorite shows, multiple, plural, folks. We got so many favorite shows that coming out of my ass that's been biopsied one too many times. We got New Japan Pro Wrestling Royal Quest. We got AEW All Out. And then finally, we're going to talk about the best show of the weekend, and everybody knows it, and those that don't are in denial. NXT UK Takeover Cardiff. Joining me on this trip tonight, first, we'll have two people, and then we'll add a third person later. But right now, all the way up in our Canada office, which our ever-growing Canada office, is Mr. Superblog Team-Up himself, Chris Bailey. Chris Bailey, how do you do?
Well, I've left the Canadians and I moved straight to the UK because this was such a great evening of wrestling.
Oh, Chris Bailey, I fancy you. That's what Taylor Swift says, at least.
God bless Taylor Swift.
And ladies and gentlemen, you know him, you love him, you can't get enough of him. He's Mr. Toxic Masculinity to you. It's totally 80s, Pat Mullin. How do you do, Pat?
Guys, I'm not saying this has anything to do one with the other, but the AEW World Championship belt is missing, and Rocket Khan is a wanted fugitive in El Paso.
Oh, the mysteries. All right. We have a lot of ground to cover tonight, so let's get started with New Japan Pro Wrestling Royal Quest. Chris, how much New Japan do you watch, and did you have any expectations going into this?
I watch the weekly show pretty consistently. And, I had some expectations. The only thing that I will say is that, and I'll talk about it a little bit later in my analysis, is the whole Bullet Club thing is extremely played out. And we got to see Bullet Club in full force on this pay-per-view. So if that's any indication to you fans, you listeners, what my analysis is going to be, you're about to get a heavy dose.
Pat, we just finished up the G1 spoilers. Ibushi won. And I know you were very much into the G1 tournament. You were talking about it a lot in our messengers and whatnot. Coming out of the G1 and into this, what were your expectations?
So, you got to understand, if you're following New Japan, a lot of these guys are really physically beaten up, and they could use a rest. And instead, they went into another big show with a big spotlight on them for this. And I was nervously excited because I didn't know whose best we were going to get, who's still banged up and couldn't perform. But I was pleasantly surprised with the top matches. The undercard kind of was what I felt it would be for the most part.
Which was what?
The undercard was okay to good, and for me, the top two matches really made the show just absolutely can't miss.
The undercard would have been much better if we could see it.
Yeah, let's start right there. I'm big on production and presentation. I'm not a work rate guy. I am a circus, give me a show kind of guy, though I do like a nice, well-worked wrestling match. And their Access TV show is very well produced. It always looks very professionally done. No issues there, and that's probably because, at least in America, it's on Access TV. They can't show a shit show. Generally speaking, when I pay for stuff on Fight TV, I mean, let's face it, I ordered that GCW Backyard Wrestling show, and that went off without a hitch with no problems. The feed never stopped working. I didn't get that message that says waiting for signal. And the first hour or so of this one, they seem to be having all kinds of problems, and Twitter threw an absolute fit about it, which is the problem that you ran into, isn't it, Chris, where, you know, the feed kept cutting out on you even after the fact, and there were just, like, really bad pauses and whatnot.
So it started out of the gate. The actual stream itself, when it was on, was really good. There were points when the announcing cut out, or it went completely monotone where you could hear only one announcer. You had the fight symbol come up at least 20 to 25 times during the entire show saying it's loading. So this thing was a rough out of the gate production wise. Real miss, and it's a real shame because New Japan is trying to break ground in the U.S. and really establish his name, and they're moving into the British market. And I think if I was a paying customer, and not saying how I watched this particular one, but if I was, what I would say, I'd be asking for a refund. So
when Joey Ryan's penis party and GCW Backyard Wrestling and Ring of Honor Summer Supercard all go off without a hitch, but New Japan has stream problems, that doesn't bode well for building an audience on that particular platform. Now, they said it was the venue's fault, that whatever was going on at the site was causing the problems with the stream, and they were, quote-unquote, working on it about an hour into the show, so you can't lay it all at New Japan's feet, but they're the ones with their names on the on the sign, so it kind of gets laid at their feet, even if that's a little unfair. Pat, did you have any problems watching it from where you were?
So I didn't watch it live. I watched the available fight stream after it was finished, and I guess they cleaned up some of it in post, where the loading times and stuff were largely cut down.
Okay.
There were some hitches for me during the first two matches. One being the opening 6-man tag, and the other being the Juice Robinson Kota Ibushi squash.
All right, so let's kind of break these down. Now we do have 3 shows to get through, and I don't want to be here for 5 hours, so I'm gonna kind of I'm gonna bundle these up a bit. Let's talk about our first 2 matches here. Roppongi 3K, which is Rocky Romero, Sho and Yo, defeated Ryusuke Taguchi, Shota Umino, and Ren Narita. We also had Kota Ibushi, your winner of the G1 Climax, and Juice Robinson, who defeated members of the Bullet Club, Takahashi and Hikuleo. Pat, I'm going to go to you first. Your thoughts on the 6-man and then the follow-up tag. And just I'm going to punctuate this with a question that I want you to eventually get to. Why would they put Kota Ibushi in the second match on this card when he just won the goddamn G Climax? Go ahead.
Okay, so 6-man was there. It wasn't offensive, but it wasn't anything memorable. It's kind of what Roppongi 3K gives you most of the time. Juice and Ibushi against the 2 young boys. You can't have Ibushi in a prime spot on this show because that has to last till the Tokyo Dome show in January. So you have to put him in situations where he's guaranteed to win. He can squash somebody or look good. And, I don't agree with putting him on in the second match, especially with Juice Robinson, who I'm not high on. But, I guess they just wanted a highlight situation where he wasn't in a prime spot where there was any confusion about that. And also, too, he's kind of banged up after the G1. They need to put him in spots where he's going to be protected because he's working hurt. So this is probably just a let's keep him safe till the Tokyo Dome kind of move.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just don't know if second. I agree with you. I don't think second match was a good place for him. I'd maybe put him a little bit closer to the Kenta Ishii or the Guerrillas of Destiny tag team match. Somewhere middle of the card would have been more appropriate. Second match, just it's just weird. It's like putting Roman Reigns, who I'm not. Roman Reigns is a star in the WWE. I'm not saying anything more than that, but it's like putting him in like the opening 1 or 2 matches. It's like doesn't really make a tremendous amount of sense. Your thoughts, Chris Bailey?
Well, this was the first match where basically I watched without announcing, so that's a really odd thing to do when you're used to watching wrestling with full announcing. It was just a lot of really rough ring bumps and stuff like that. So I mean, you're talking about Show and Yo. I mean, these guys are really really good. I mean, Roppongi 3K. You got Rocky Romero, who's been wrestling since the dawn of man, and he's he's pretty banged up, as everyone is talking about as well. I mean, he's put in his time. This one ended, of course. Roppongi 3K was took the win in this one. The only real good part of the entire match was when Narita and Show went at it. I mean, the crowd. That was the only point in the entire match when the crowd was like super into it. But Show finally pinned Narita with the like a backstabber type move, and it was pretty good. Pretty. I don't know, pretty complacent opener, but I think the production quality really took it away from me. So then, of course, you got into Bullet Club. Okay, so you got Takahashi and Hikulo. Is that how you pronounce his name?
I went with Hikuleo.
Okay. And you got Kota Ibushi, who you said, is really banged up. It showed, but he still had a pretty good outing here. I mean, this was the fans were super into Ibushi and Robinson. And, I mean, the pop that they got, I was pretty shocked. Minor technical issues on this one. And, Bullet Club took their first loss, which was, a sign of things to come later on in that night. But I don't know. I think, Ibushi and Robinson are a good act together. But like you said, it's a really weird thing after he wins the climax and he's stuck in a tag team match with Juice Robinson. I mean, it's a little shaky and a little off. So I like this match. The first one didn't really do much for me.
I have no thoughts on the 6-man tag. I mean, I always think about the first WrestleMania and like Tito Santana kicking it off and what the documentary had said about that at the time, which was, hey, we just want to get a hot opener. We want to wake the crowd up, get them into things, sort of set the pace of the show. So did it do that? Yeah, probably. There's you can't, unless it's like 6 fat guys, you're always gonna have with a 6-man tag a pretty hot opener. It was a little hard to enjoy because of the technical issues. Ibushi, Juice, and the Bullet Club. Again, they were fine. They kind of put on an entertaining match. I've already spoke about odd placement for Ibushi. I liked him and Juice together. They seem to both be very crowd pleasing. They just needed to be higher up on the card with maybe slightly different opponents.
So you got a little Golden Lovers thing there at the end where they're always doing the homosexual thing with Ibushi, and it comes off really strange when he's not doing it with Omega. So when he's playing it up with Juice Robinson, it was kind of strange. I got to be honest with you.
No, I thought it made a lot of sense.
Why?
Really?
Yeah. Have you ever seen Juice Robinson?
Fair enough. I retract my statement.
What I always find funny about, we got to move on, but what I always find funny about Juice is the first time I saw him, he was the protesting hippie in NXT. And of course he gets squashed by everybody. Baron Corbin, I think, put him through the mat 97 times before they finally gave up on the guy. And but New Japan treats him like he's Seth Rollins. It's pretty amazing.
The last time we saw him in NXT, he broke Kevin Owens' nose.
Yeah. I'm not quite sure what they see in Juice Robinson because, apparently he makes people happy, but I don't quite see the appeal.
He's over. Japanese people are weird.
Moving on. Chaos, which is Will Ospreay and Robbie Eagles, defeated more members of the Bullet Club, Ishimori and El Fantasmo. Also, you have Los Ignorables de Japan, which is Naito and Sonata versus yet more members of the fucking Bullet Club, Jay White and Chase Owens.
At least those are named guys.
Yeah, those are higher members of the Bullet Club. Anyway, so Pat, back to you. Chaos and the Bullet Club, Naito, Sonata, and yet more Bullet Club.
Yeah, Ospreay has been probably the most consistent big match performer of the past 3 months, and he kept it going here. I'm not a big Robbie Eagles fan. I think he's being put in a position he's not ready for, and I do like Ishimori and ELP. I thought they were good opponents, and this match, aside from a few technical difficulties that were still on the stream, I enjoyed it. Naito and Sanada against White and Owens. Naito and White are both pretty banged up and hurt, so this match never got out of second gear for me, which was disappointing because I've been doing a lot of hyping up of Sonata to Mark, and I think the G1 kind of lived up to that. But here, I don't really think he got the chance to get the shine on him he deserved.
Yeah, my impression of a lot of this card was, hey, British folk and everybody else watching this, here's what we do, here's what we are, here's a little taste. If you really, really want to see us cutting loose and doing what we do, come check out our actual New Japan stuff. But here you're just kind of this is a pay-per-view, but it almost comes across like a house show where it's like, let's get everybody on the card, let's give everybody a taste, and then come out and spend some more money. You know what I mean, Chris?
That's exactly what it is. This is the Home Shopping Network version of New Japan. And, I mean, you really got to see, again, enough Bullet Club to make you sick. I mean, this reminds me of, like, the final dying days of the NWO when you're watching WCW back in the day. Remember when Virgil and, the rest of the Schlems were there holding up the fort, calling themselves NWO Black and White? Well, this is what I get the feeling when it comes to these guys. I mean, how many guys have they stripped away from New Japan? With they lost the Ballers and the AJs and the Club. They've lost all these guys, and now they're down to this selection of talent. And I mean, while they can go in the ring, it really looks minor league in the ring. But however, now getting into the matches themselves, Will Ospreay is fantastic. Robbie Eagles, even though he seems a little bit green around the gills or whatever, I think he put off a really, really strong match. This was probably one of my favorite matches on the show. And the double Spanish Fly at the end to put Eagles and Ospreay over was wicked. So I really thought that was pretty cool. Now, the other one, Naito and Sonata against, again, the Bullet Club. Now, here's where the Bullet Club falls apart for me. So you had Naito and Sonata, I mean, huge stars when it comes to New Japan. But Chase Owens, this guy, I don't know, he's trained by Ricky Morton. They brought it up. He looks like an indie jobber, and he doesn't do anything for me. And when you got Jay White in a key position as one of the members of the Bullet Club, it just doesn't work for me. It just reeks of end of days for this entire gimmick, right? I think they really need to move on quickly if that's all they got to put on their Bullet Club when it comes to Jay White. It's just not working. It reminds me of putting the Ring of Honor title on the well, I'm hearing all kinds of feedback here, guys. What am I hearing?
That's Pat, and that's his fan, and you just got to ignore it.
Pat's fan. He's got a fan, everybody.
It's been moved now. Sorry.
No worries. But, I mean, you got this big attack at the end. I mean, really, was there... Yeah, okay, so Owens taps out. So that was how this one ended. But I mean, they had this ridiculous spot at the end where they were the Bullet Club were beating them down with chairs. And, I mean, Jay White needs to learn how to sling a chair, man. This guy was softball. It looked like Sid hit Hogan. I mean, it was brutal. I don't know. I'm sort of done with New Japan's Bullet Club, and this was the final straw for me. Jay White sucks, and he can take Chase Owens with him.
So, Pat, let me ask you a question before we get into these next two matches. If you were to turn Roman Reigns heel and give him goons, who do you give him, the Usos or the Guerrillas of Destiny?
Oh.
How is that even a question? he gets the GOD.
So that's what I thought. I think they would make excellent henchmen, but I figured that was an apt comparison. Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, the Usos, who I fucking hate, no matter what gimmick they've got. All right.
I don't even hate the Usos, but it's like it's like comparing hey, do I want the Tonga Kid to main event Madison Square Garden, or do I go with Jimmy Snuka?
It's a fair point. So, Guerrillas of Destiny, who are your IWGP Tag Team Champions, versus the winners of a Rev Pro tournament, Aussie Open, which is Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis. Plus, you had newly formed leader-ish of the Bullet Club, newly formed heel, the ever beaten-up burnout of NXT, Kenta, versus Big Tom Ishii. Right, Pat? We love Big Tom Ishii.
Love Big Tom.
What did you think of these two matches here?
So, I was disappointed with Ishii versus Kenta. And that's shocking for me to say because I generally love any match featuring Ishii because he's on fire all the time. I just don't think they gelled all that well. I think there were some rough spots in there where it kind of was transitioning from move to move as opposed to trying to tell a story, which is not common with Ishii matches. And it was a little bit disappointing. The opposite was true for me of the tag team match, because I'd seen Aussie Open at Rev Pro live, and they were excellent. I was really impressed with them and was hoping they would get a good spot. And they did here, and I don't think they disappointed at all. I think they exceeded my expectations greatly. And I think a lot of that was the GOD being willing to give and give and give to them and feed them, and then make the timely cutoff and get the win. I really enjoyed a lot of that match. Ishii, I guess, at some point he had to turn it off. And Kenta, honestly, since he's been back in Japan, has not been the same. I think he's got to transition back to working the Japanese style after being in NXT for so long, even if he spent most of it on the IR. It's a big transition one way to back to the old way. So I'm going to give him a little bit of grace, but if he's not ready by the Tokyo Dome show, I don't know where we go with him.
Yeah, I feel like this is kind of a last hurrah for Kenta. I don't know what you do with him if you transition him to like a manager role in New Japan, or I don't know if they have agents in New Japan, but if they do, maybe that's something he can do. But I feel like Kenta was so beat up during his NXT run, and I don't know if you're always the same after being injured for so long and so many times. It's very weird. Like, he showed up in NXT and was like immediately injured, and then just stayed injured almost until he left. So it can take a lot out of a person, and he's back here, and he definitely seems like he's lost a step. It feels like they put him in the Bullet Club to cover for the fact that he can't go like a Tanahashi or a Ibushi or a Will Ospreay. He just kind of he's in that first gear, and he's kind of staying there. That plus the fact that I thought that if they were going to do this you betrayed me angle between Kenta and Big Tom, I feel like this should have been. It didn't have to be a garbage match, but maybe break things up on this card and let him do. I don't want to say hardcore, because that means there's garbage cans and just let this be more of a street fight. Give me some anger. Not to mention it would have broken up the monotony of this card for me. Instead, they just kind of had a wrestling match, and there were already a bunch of wrestling matches on here. So meh, you know what I mean, Chris?
Yeah. So we'll start with the first match, I guess. God versus Aussie Open. I mean, the match started hot. The guys didn't even touch each other, and they were doing a full-on 2 or 3 minute long battle chant between the two teams. I mean, the crowd were ready to accept this match. God is, it just flies in the face of my earlier comment about, Bullet Club dying. I mean, you got these guys, and they are hot members. They're a great wrestling team, and I mean, they will be breakout stars in that company. One of the funny things during the match when they had poor old Gato out there swinging the cane every time one of the boys would go off the ropes, and Kevin Kelly yelling, "You son of a bitch," was wicked. I thought that was hilarious. You don't really get to hear that a lot since the old ECW days, so that was pretty funny. I mean, you got Tama Tonga and you got Tonga Loa. I mean, Tama Tonga, I think he's a breakout star. I think when you hit it right on the money when you were talking about Roman Reigns, who would be a good a thug to partner up with him. You got Tama Tonga, who is a legit badass. I mean, you follow his Twitter account, he's a savage online. And then you got the Marty Jannetty and Tongaloa. So what do you do?
Kick him through a window. Kick him through a window.
Exactly. They had a pretty cool finish. I mean, the match finished off with the super power bomb. I'm always a power bomb guy, so that was about a 3-star match for me. And then you get into Ishii versus Kenta. And when you talk about poor Kenta, who's been injured, like you said, he is the kiss of death in WWE is when somebody is injured right away. I could just hear Vince McMahon now. "Oh, God damn it, pal. He's injured and he's done. Fire his ass." You know what I mean? Right away, it's the kiss of death. You know what I mean? And he really looked banged up. If anyone looked poor on this show, it was Kenta. Every single thing that he did was very slow. Halfway through the match, he seemed to lose his way, too. It was really odd. And he was being very ginger with his shots. Like, he was pulling back on his slaps, and his headbutts were slow, and it was just sloppy all over the place. It was really
It was almost, I'd compare it to just the way you described the chair shots earlier from Jay White.
Yes.
It seemed to be very, very safe and not really into doing what they do normally. But again, I'll bring it back to how we know so many guys were banged up from working G1. And
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly.
did we really think this was the output that we should have, though?
No. Another cool point, I want to make this one. This is hilarious because it continues on through the night. So I think they were doing like a New Japan for Dummies. So they were doing really great. They were doing really great Tron packages as people would come in, but they would use descriptors to describe the wrestlers. So someone would come in and they had like, let me see, who was this? Who did I make a note of? Oh, so Ishii. Ishii came in with strong impact, tough and hard. That's how they described him. And it just kept going for everybody. Like they do a video package and they would have like 2 words, tough and hard. Like you talk about keeping it simple. It's funny. Now Ishii I thought was really good, but this was just another blow off. And you had the God come in again. Kenta won this one, of course. But one of the things, if you watch the finish, Ishii's shoulder is completely off the mat. I don't know, the camera angle was really strange. And my favorite part of the entire thing, you had Kenta winning the Openweight Championship here, of course. But just take a look, if you still have a copy of the show or whatever, or a stream, take a look at poor Kenta trying to climb the ropes after he wins the belt. He gets he tries about 7 times before the crowd starts booing him, and he just gives up.
That was rough.
Oh, that was rough.
Oh, poor Kenta.
Vince McMahon was like, I told you, god damn, Kenta.
Stop bringing these midget Japanese guys over, god damn it. All right, in our last 2 matches here, and these matches, especially this first one here, were the absolute tits of the show. Just the best things ever. Hiroshi Tanahashi won the British Heavyweight Championship away from good old ZSJ, Zack Sabre Jr., and by far, like a country mile, the best match on the card. It's like it wasn't even close.
Absolutely.
Absolutely love this one. This was everything. Like, if you're advertising New Japan and you're like, well, give me a typical New Japan match, this is the one you show people. Instant fans, automatically. I mean, unless you like guys sticking their hands in their pockets and diving through ropes. More on that later. And then you
smell some oranges.
Freshly squeezed, baby. Then you have Okada defending his championship against Old Man Suzuki. This was great for a whole other reason. Like, Suzuki is just... I hear Jim Cornette's voice coming out of Suzuki, because I look at him and he's like, this is the way wrestling is and the way it ought to be, and get off my lawn, which is how he wrestled this match. It was it was weird seeing Okada wrestle this guy who's just made of fucking spit and punches and bad attitudes and leather. He's because I'm used to seeing Okada, against the Tanahashis and the of the world and the all the work rate guys in New Japan, and then he fights Old Man Suzuki. Which, Pat, if you want to tell your story again, now's the time. The time Pat Mullin stood up to Suzuki and won. But yeah, like a different style of match, but it was well needed on this card, and I thought it was a great way to end the show. Just loved it, but for a whole other reason than Tanahashi and Zack Sabre Jr. So talk to me, Pat, and tell everybody about your experience with Suzuki real quick.
Okay, so real quick, the reason I'm 1-0 against Minoru Suzuki. So I saw Suzuki 3 times in the span of WrestleMania weekend. Once at Bloodsport, once at Rev Pro, and once at the Ring of Honor New Japan Super Show. After the Rev Pro show, myself and friends of the show, Jed Casey, we were all, we were hanging out afterward and kind of checking out the guys leaving and stuff like that, seeing who was who, and we saw a bunch of the guys leaving, and then we saw Suzuki. And it's like, do we dare? So we kind of follow him a little bit outside through the lobby, and he's there with, like, I guess his, handler or bitch or whatever you want to call him, his gopher. And I said, I'm shaking his hand. And Jed's like, all right, go for it. So the only phrase I know in Japanese besides Ichiban is Hajime Mashite, which is nice to meet you for the first time. So I say, Suzuki-san? And he looks over at me with disdain in his eyes and fire. And I say, Hajimemashite, and I extend my hand. And I don't know if he thinks because I'm a fairly big guy. Like, I'm 6 feet tall, I weigh about 225. And Suzuki's not a big guy, he's an in-shape guy. I don't know if he thinks I'm going to try him, because that's the background he comes from. Or if I'm, just I have ill intent or whatever. Or he's just a mean motherfucker, which is part of it too. And I extend my hand, and he just looks down on it with hate. And, dismissive. And then I extend my hand further towards his chest. And at that point, he sort of just begrudgingly looks at me and shakes my hand. And I consider that a win because I didn't back down, he did. And then immediately after, some kid ran up to him for an autograph and a picture. And Suzuki, shrugged his head at him no and walked away in disgust.
Man.
So, yeah,
we
I'm 1-0.
need to fuck up this guy's lawn.
All right, Pat, go to town here. You've got 2 matches to talk. Talk, baby, talk.
You'd think I'd be sick of Tanahashi and ZSJ at this point, but I'm not. I just think these guys have magic chemistry together, even though Mark slept through the match he saw them live for.
It was before the CPAP.
Yeah. Anyway. They really have probably the most underrated rivalry for me in Japanese wrestling and most of pro wrestling right now. And it's been very one-sided as of late. ZSJ really putting the boots and making Tanahashi look bad. Tanahashi, coming out of the G1, did not have a great outing, especially for a guy who's in his position. I know he's been working banged up, too, longer than anybody else. But to see him really give his all here was impressive. I thought the chinlock spot did run a little long, but I'm not going to complain because I think the match told the story of the rivalry. And I'm not going to complain about Tanahashi getting the W in the end with the high-fly flow in ZSJ's backyard, which was awesome. As far as Suzuki and Okada, the fact that Suzuki is 51 and can still perform like this, and definitely like Mark said, in a different type of match, where you saw Suzuki's killer instinct and MMA background play a huge part of it, and his constant attempts for the Gotch pile driver versus Okada's pro wrestling style, and, the constant attempts at the Rainmaker and his trademark offense was really cool. I was shocked at just how long they went for Suzuki to keep the pace he did. Definitely match of the night for me. Tanahashi ZSJ, very close second. Loved both matches. No complaints.
All right, Chris Bailey. Take me home, baby doll.
So, just because somebody can throw a clothesline and a chop does not necessitate you being the best wrestler in the world. That's what I'll lead with, okay? We can fill in the blanks after that. So, Tommy Dreamer, who is an ECW guy, is heckled and ridiculed because he's a hardcore guy. He has more offense than one of these people in the main event, and I'll get onto that a bit later. But first, when you talk about the Tron, again, the Tron comes up, Tanahashi comes out, and they tell the crowd to chant, "Go Ace." They dub him high-flying superstar and love and energy, and this is his descriptors on his Tron. So for those who are paying attention, high-flying superstar, love and energy. That's what Tanahashi is all about, apparently. Anyway, Zack Sabre Jr., he's in his home country. He's mega over. It's very, very strong reaction to this guy. Lots of, if you're into technical wrestling, this is the one. Tons of, working the body parts, chin locks, crappy, shitty sling blades by Tanahashi. Now, I'm going to actually agree with you guys. I thought this was a fantastic match, to be quite honest with you. I really love Tanahashi. I think that out of everyone in the New Japan roster, he is my absolute favorite when it comes to being a pure New Japan guy. To see him get the win with...
You don't post shirtless pictures of him quite as often as I do.
Okay, well, you're both wrong. Enough. You're both wrong. Your favorite is Ibushi, because I said so, but move on. I do that to Jesse all the time. He tells me he likes something on the Metal Hammer of Doom, and I'm like, no, this is what you like. So it's only fair that I spread the dickishness around. Please continue.
I think that Tanahashi looks like a superhero, man. This guy has the entire look. He's over with the crowd, and it's interesting to see what they're going to do with this British Championship now that he's the champion. So I gave this one a 4 out of 5, so I thought that was really good. Now, moving on to Mr. Clothesline and Chop himself. Yes, the best wrestler in the world, Okada, according to Dave Meltzer. I don't get it. I really liked the match. I thought they had great chemistry. Suzuki, he's an old-timer, but, man, he kicked the shit out of Okada. The pure slaps that Okada was absorbing, unbelievable. I just don't get the Rainmaker. And I think there comes a point when you got to stop going for your finisher because it comes to the point where, he's going to try to hit me with the clothesline again for the 93rd time in the match, Anyway, I'm done complaining about that. I thought it was...
It's one of those things where he's got to find a different way to go with it.
Really? A clothesline? You're finishing a guy with a clothesline in 2019.
Maybe he should hit more Canadian destroyers. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. Oh, wait a second. I apologize to the New Japan crowd. I take everything back. The clothesline is a much better finisher than a fucking Canadian destroyer. Good Lord. No, you know what? This was my second favorite match of the card, but I thought they had great chemistry for a 51-year-old guy and a young guy like Okada. Now, I know I just beat up on Okada, but the guy has a incredibly sharp look. I think the guy can be money. I'm not sure what someone like the WWE would do with a guy like this because they usually limit guys to like 3 to 4 moves, and the guy's only got 2.
They tell him to learn English. That's what they do.
Oh boy, that stuff he did on the mic at the end of this one was incomprehensible.
They correctly put a guy who shouldn't be in a ring like Sami Zayn as a manager.
True.
Yeah.
True, and right at the end of the match, Sonata comes out. I mean, Sonata is another guy. I mean, I was just doing a running commentary with Mark there on Twitter, and I mentioned that he looked like a Japanese Nick Bockwinkel. I think the Sonata Okada match is going to be huge, man. I think that's going to draw big money, and I really can't wait. So,
also, I will say of his 4 moves, he does have the prettiest drop kick around.
Oh boy, he hit one from behind, and he got like Jim Brunzell height on that thing.
Yeah, I was fearful of his life at that point because it's Suzuki, and like you just don't know what he wants to do, and pretty much anything he wants to do to these guys, he can.
Yes. I just think when you got a guy like Dave Meltzer who puts Okada over so hard, I think when you see this guy in real life, I think you expect a little more than a clothesline and a chop. You know what I mean?
So 10 words or less overall. I thought that this was, technical issues aside, a good outing from Royal Quest once we got to the second half of the card. It was definitely a B-side loaded card. You could probably skip the first 2 or 3 matches and you wouldn't be hurting at all. Bailey, 10 words or less overall.
Overall, I thought it was a good show. The last 2 matches were good anchors. Really, really solid. The production value was the dog shit, though.
Yeah. Somebody mentioned next time, just let New Japan handle all of their. Make sure everything, all the wires are plugged in. Bring your own stuff. Just don't assume anyone knows what they're doing. Do it yourself. DIY.
So there's one point in this entire card where they took a shot of the announcing team, and they should have never did it. So the guys were passing one headset back and forth between them to talk. This is the sad state of affairs that was New Japan production this night.
Like I said, GCW Backyard Wrestling had better production at one point. Pat, 10 words or less, go.
Excellent early 90s, late 80s MSG house show.
You are correct, sir.
Yes, sir. Good call.
All right, we move from London Boy, I Fancy You, to Chicago, the Sears Center.
Ugh, do we have to?
We do. But I'll make this as painless as possible. We'll bunch things up again because some of this, God, the last time we talked about AEW, we covered a lot of territory, and let me say this to start us off here, and let's just kick this hacky sack for a minute, and then we'll get into the breakdown of the matches. The last few times we talked about AEW, the group of us that did, we had a lot of criticisms for the product between, as Jim Cornette calls it, the cosplay wrestling, the unnecessary shots at the WWE, the Bush Leagueness of it all, the lack of adult supervision. Much of that was largely corrected with this show. Yet, the Twitter consensus seems to be this was not as good a show as Double or Nothing, which confuses old old man Radulich. I sit confused on my porch drinking my lemonade, whittling and whistling, because I don't understand these things. This was a better produced show. This was a tighter show. Individual spots in wrestling that we'll talk about aside, things seemed to, once we got out of that stupid girl battle royal, which was the drizzling shits, things seemed to flow pretty well. They largely corrected a lot of the mistakes they've made in the first couple of shows. And, and then at the end, they put the title on logically the best guy they could have when trying to reach a mainstream audience on a cable primetime show. Why does everyone think this was not as good a show as Double or Nothing, Pat? Why? Tell me why.
To be fair, I don't think Double or Nothing was a good show either.
Well, yeah, but that doesn't answer my question.
Probably because just it wasn't very good. Listen, we'll talk about the show as a whole, but as far as you can't have a show where more negatives stand out than positives. And even the positives of this had to get sprinkled with negatives for the most part, with like one exception for me, which was Kenny and Pac. But other than that, there's something that I really hated about everything else on this card.
But you've been pretty negative on all Elite Wrestling pretty much from the start, and I would imagine you and I haven't, besides our chat, you on this show, on one of my podcasts, you and I really haven't hashed this out. So if you could, 50 words or less, sum up for me what Pat Mullin thinks is wrong with AEW.
Identity crisis. You can't be a serious promotion and book dumb shit that insults your audience while you're trying to pretend this is a serious show. It doesn't work. You can't have it both ways. You can either be a serious promotion with great top-tier talent and build solid mid-cards, or you can be goofy shit that panders to 4% of the population because you want to be inclusive, and then do dumb comedy shit and outlaw mud shit all on one show.
Okay. You're pretty much in line with everybody else that's been on this show that's commented on it, so at least there won't be a wild debate. Maybe the usual defense of the miserable by me, but boy, if that's not my brand, I don't know what is. Chris, let's go to you here. Just real quick, like 10 words or less. Why does Twitter hate this show but loves Double or Nothing, which is inconceivable to me? Inconceivable.
AEW is what happens when you have a father who is a comedy wrestling fan, and he brings some wrestlers over to his son's birthday parties and pays them $5, and this is what you get with AEW. Okay. They have a crisis of identity. They have lost their way. This was a little bit better, which I'll get into, but boy, they are all up and down. They have no game plan at all.
All right. As we talk about it, we can sort of revisit this idea, but let's get started here. Look, I'm high on women's wrestling. There's a lot of it that I like. I think there's potential somewhere in their women's division.
So they booked a guy to beat all the women.
He beat me to it, you son of a bitch.
Oh, come on, you really bumped heads on the way to that joke. Yes, the transgender male to female wrestler won the Battle Royal by eliminating the highly marketable and mostly pretty Dr. Britt Baker. That's not my problem with this. I'm fine with it. I don't want to debate the merits of transgender in sports or fake sports. That's a whole other podcast. And if they're, and I've said from the start, and I've said it many times on here, that Nyla Rose, and your personal opinions aside, Nyla Rose is somebody they can, if they want to, push, and there's a story there, and there's an opportunity to market her, which they can't seem to do to save their lives.
Even without doing the whole transgender marketing ploy, okay, you got this behemoth who looks like a behemoth, and I'll go back to the last show where they booked him with the Japanese girls. And instead of being the behemoth, fucking lost to a schoolboy.
Yeah,
yes, exactly what's wrong with this whole gimmick.
Yeah, that's been my... Look, I'm not commenting, and nor do I care about this person's gender identity. She's presenting as a woman. She identifies as a woman. That's how I personally, Mark Radulich, am referring to her. My problem
and I am the walrus cuckoo cachoo.
Absolutely. That being said, they've booked this person all wrong, and it's the most frustrating thing ever, because instead of booking her like Yokozuna early 90s, they're booking her like Yokozuna late 90s. And I don't
Exactly.
I just don't fucking understand.
Listen, if you pay money for Vader, you let Vader be Vader. You do not turn them into a second-class citizen jobbing out to Barry Horowitz. You just don't. Nyla Rose has been a complete letdown, and I mean they put her in the ring with two extremely small Japanese wrestlers on the other show,
and she fucking lost.
That's what I mean.
Who was school for?
But how would you book this? Any dummy, any 5-year-old kid would know how you book this is how you have the large person completely dominate these two and maybe team up and beat her at the end. I would never have her beaten, by the way. I'd have her completely crush the two Japanese girls and move on. That's how you build this person. The woman's getting a title shot, so why didn't you do it?
Nobody who's booked this woman has heard of Andre the Giant. Nobody. I mean, who is the classic example of how you book a big person, how you book a monster. Andre the Giant I don't think, lost a match until WrestleMania 3, from what I understand. And he did constant multi-man matches. That was the big attraction. Andre the Giant, versus 20 guys in a ring, and he beat them all. Because he was Andre the fucking Giant.
Even building other heels in that monster vein. They did the same thing with John Studd. They did the same thing with Bundy. They did the same thing with countless other behemoth monsters who they wanted to get over. And when they were in solo matches, they usually ended in less than a minute.
Right.
But now you've got not just Nyla Rose, but you got Kong, who's a physical equivalent to a degree, where you can set up this monster mash between Kong and tease it. They half-ass teased it with the booking here. And then had Jazz and I think it was ODB toss Kong, if I'm not mistaken. Which, I mean, again, you have at least in ODB, she's a little more credible at this point because she's not. And I hate to talk down about Jazz, who I'm a big fan of, but Jazz has not wrestled a regular schedule in years. She hasn't been in the public eye in years, and she is a bit older. Let's face it. So to have her kind of come in there with ODB to toss Kong was somewhat disappointing, which again, you go back to the Andre booking theory, have everybody in the ring immediately go gang up on one of these two and dump them.
So, believe it or not, though, not the most frustrating thing about this Battle Royal. I think I just hate the Casino Battle Royal idea.
The concept, I was going there.
It's a suck shit concept from a production standpoint, because there's an assumption that you're going to know who all these twats are, and I just don't. I have no idea who half these women are. They're just running. You just got a bevy of women running to the ring, and they all don't really stand out. A handful have something going on to where I'm like, oh, you look like a character. But most of them are just girls in tights. And here's the thing, and this is just a production thing. The Royal Rumble, whether they're running, skipping, cartwheeling, walking, being driven by a cart, everybody that comes down in the Royal Rumble gets a song and a name. Right, plastered across the screen. They get their entrance music, and then, a little title card comes up that says, "This is Ham Sandwich," and there we go. And whether or not Ham Sandwich even makes it to the fucking ring, at least you knew who Ham Sandwich was.
Exactly. The announcers would throw a little play on exactly what their purpose is, what their mission in the Rumble is. This had none of it. Like you said, this was like, hey, let's go pick up 5 girls on the street and throw some tights on them, and let's get them in this Rumble.
They could have been picking girls out of the... this has been my problem with AEW. There is a large assumption that the crowd is already in on the gag, which you're never going to break out of the little divot that you've carved out for yourself if that's your mentality going in. That has been largely my consistent criticism of this product, and in many places they fixed it, but it was a glaring problem with this Battle Royal. And then I utterly lost track of whoever was in this thing because I don't know who any of these people are, with the exception of a few.
This is a concept they could have rolled out, a year or so from now, after they'd spent time familiarizing you with their roster, and maybe it would work better. I say maybe, because, one, I hate the concept as a whole. I get that the Battle Royal is dull and it's bland and we've been there, and the only alteration really that's ever truly been successful is the Royal Rumble doing timed entrances at random draws. But you know what? That's because the Battle Royal ain't broken. People still understand it and know what it is, and you can do introductions along the way and get all 20 in the ring and then let them go at it or whatever. It's, it's a concept where that's the only way it really works other than the Royal Rumble, and it's been proven time and time again. So stop trying to change it. I get you're trying to be different, which AEW's whole concept is different, but this is something that you can't execute when half the audience at least does not know who these people are.
Presentation and communication are key in selling product. If you don't care about selling your product and you just want to do art, lots of luck. We'll see you in bankruptcy court. Private Party, who don't want to be compared with the Street Profits from what I've been told on Twitter, defeated...
Good luck.
defeated Off-Brand DX, Angelico and Jack Evans. Private Party are great. Angelico and Jack Evans, I don't know, go to Ring of Honor so no one pays attention to you. Chris?
Yeah, you hit it right on the money. I would just want to touch on the women's Rumble first. Like you guys were saying, I mean, you have a bunch of nameless women who are out there, but who do you know? The ones that they push the librarian, who has not won a match. They pushed a dentist, Dr. Britt Baker. I mean, that's all we know about her. She's a dentist. She's Dr. Britt Baker. Look at me. I'm a dentist. But what have you done? You've done nothing.
They made a big deal out of Bea Priestley. They made a big deal out of Bea Priestley in their defense. But you're talking maybe... Look, there were like maybe 5 or 6 girls in there total who from Double or Nothing to now they've made somewhat a big deal about. But that's about it.
Nyla Rose gets the win, but it's funny because these people have never put together one of these matches before. It's very clear. I mean, you had a spot where Britt Baker literally runs over to the ropes, climbs up, and waits for someone to suplex her off. She's looking like it's just very awkward. I was like, what's she doing? What purpose? There's no one to jump on. Oh, she's waiting to be suplexed. Look at that. I mean, you can tell. I mean, you've got some talent backstage, and I mean,
God, I'm sorry, Chris. But you reminded me of something that I needed to talk about real quick. There was a girl in the Battle Royal who was wearing a red getup who literally adjusted herself properly. Like she's sitting in the corner against another gal, and I don't even remember who now, but somebody else runs and does either an ass or crotch thing to her. But she's not in the right position, so she actually like sit up a little bit more and adjust herself. And I'm like, you phony cosplay wrestler fucking bullshit girl. You're not even good enough for the non-TV related NXT product, you twat. Ugh.
I'd like to make it clear that I hated Dean Malenko before his Parkinson's, so me ripping on him has nothing to do with that.
Okay, fair enough. You don't want to beat down the Parkinson's guy. But Pat Patterson must have rolled over in his soon-to-be grave. I mean, this was poorly executed. This is not the way WWE would ever present this type of thing. You got characters out there who mean nothing to the entire program. Instead, you're going to have Nyla Rose take on a nameless Japanese woman in one of the matches when you have ODB, you have a license to print money with Kong. It's mindless. Anyway, let's switch over to Private Party and Angelico and Jack Evans.
You got the mic, my friend. Just go.
Number one, Jack Evans. I don't even understand how this guy is still alive from his days in Ring of Honor. I mean, this guy's been broken up, fucked up, twisted up, and yet he's still going. Yes, that's exactly. There you go. But, I mean, pretty cool finish. Listen, the Private Party hit that flying cutter finish on poor old Angelico. It was a fun little match. Tons of athletic spots. Exactly what you'd think. That's all I got to say about that.
All right, let's move. Pat, unless you have, other than yuck, which I think sums it up pretty good, I don't know if you have anything else to say about good old Private Party versus Off-Brand DX.
Angelico sucks. Jack Evans sucks. Good finish.
Terrific. So
wait, Mark, before you go into another match, there was a mini movie that came on after this which reeked of WCW. They're introducing Wardlow, so they show him fighting a bunch of muggers and protecting his lady friend. This was the best thing on the entire show.
Yeah, I may have gotten up to go deal with my kids during that.
No, I saw
you
this.
do have to go back and see it. It was WCW mini movie magic. Oh, boy. He tears up a bunch of thugs, cinematic style.
All right. SoCal Uncensored versus the Jurassic Express, which the Jurassic Express are my new favorite thing ever. Gosh, Jungle Boy needs to put some muscle on, and he needs to put some muscle on his frame. Obviously he's a muscular guy, but he needs to size up just a bit. I don't need him to be Ivan Putski, but also the skinniest guy ever in wrestling isn't really necessary either. Luchasaurus is the greatest thing ever, and I think they should hire both stunts and just change him out. Kill one stunt, and then the other one takes his place, then kill him, the other one has to come back, that sort of thing.
How about we just kill them both and never see them again?
I want him to do a Mass Killer Bees gimmick, is what I'm trying to tell you, with the Stunt Brothers. Anyway.
There's a big problem with that, though, Mark. I think we know what that is. The size difference. One looks like he's a midget. That's all I can say.
Both of those guys dropped out of the special ed class, let me tell you. Anyway, so this was a great match, though. This was a good six-man tag. This was a great way to start the pay-per-view, I thought. SoCal Uncensored are a lot of fun. The Jungle Express, the Jurassic Express, rather, is the best thing in wrestling right now as far as fun gimmicks go. Just an all-around, good way to start it. It was followed by Pac versus Omega, and these guys put on a 23-minute classic. I know Jim Cornette fucking hates Kenny Omega. This took the place of the Jon Moxley Kenny Omega match that was planned, but Jon Moxley got a case of the MRSA, so
we got fortunate.
Yes. These guys put on a fantastic wrestling match, probably one of the best on the card. Pat?
I really don't have any complaints about Pac and Kenny. I thought that was a great match. I know where the booking with Kenny is going in terms of this kind of redemption arc, and I'm okay with it. I'll get more on that later. But I really enjoyed this. It was such a trade-up for me from seeing Moxley versus Omega, because they physically would not have been capable of what these two guys pulled out. And again, this was just a really well-executed match. It was nice to finally see Pac again, because we've been without him for quite a while. So I really enjoyed what I saw. SCU, listen, I was the biggest Christopher Daniels fan in the world, but that was 14 years ago. And he's
exactly the same.
I remember when we tried to get him into XPW, and when he did not get selected after his tryout match in the WWF. That's what I remember about Christopher Daniels, and how long ago that was.
There really was a point in time where he was the best independent guy in the world, but that time's long gone. Kazarian is a good talent and still has some left in the tank. Scorpio Sky sucks. He's terrible. I would pay to never see him again. That being said, he's not as offensive as Marco Stunt. I get the Luchasaurus Jungle Boy tag team. I actually think it's a lot of fun. That's kind of how you do comedy right in wrestling, which AEW doesn't seem to understand fully. I love the idea of that tag team together. If Luchasaurus is ever booked in an arc where he becomes a serious gimmick, then he will be a top guy for AEW for a long time, because he's very, very good. If you took the nonsense out of this had a real shot at a 4-star match for me. As it was, I'll give it 3, just because I think Luchasaurus, Jungle Boy, Daniels, and Kazarian deserve it. But I love Jungle Boy, but yeah, kid needs to get on some whey protein and do a 5x5 training for a couple weeks at least, just to get some kind of mass on him. Because he's almost like, if you guys remember Sam Houston in the 80s.
Yes.
Sam Houston
Kendall Windham and Sam Houston.
Yeah. Sam Houston would get mocked on commentary by Gorilla Monsoon, who was supposed to be the babyface commentator, for not having enough mass on him to be able to pin guys effectively.
All right, give me your 50 words or less on this, on the 6-man and Pac versus Omega, Chris.
SCU, you got Chris Daniels, like you said, who is a wash-up of the wash-ups, and Scorpio Sky is just, these guys are done. These guys are the dads at the party coming in and busting in on the kids going, hey, kids, would you like to listen to the Nickelback? That's who these guys are in 2019. You got Jungle Boy and you got Luchasaurus. I think that is a great gimmick. That is Enzo and Cass done right, folks, right there. That is exactly what I really, really, really enjoy this gimmick. It's kind of disturbing with the little guy Marco stunt, and they gave him the double team spike tombstone, which actually made me a little bit happy. So, moving on, we got Kenny Omega versus Pac. This is your typical Kenny Omega paint by numbers match. Really, really well done. It was great to see Pac. He's in wicked shape. I don't know. I think you couldn't go around Pac with a pin because I think he would explode into steroids all over the place. But this guy is jacked up. This match went 23 minutes, and I don't know, man. And it ended with a shocking win. Like Omega was out. Like they called the match off with what did he use? It was some sort of submission hold where Kenny Omega just pretty well died on the vine. What was that? What was the finish?
It's called the Brutalizer.
The Brutalizer, yes, that's exactly what it was. That I couldn't hear when good old Golden Boy was muddling through his commentary there. But what I would say about this match, this was one of the standout matches on the card. But Kenny Omega losing, I don't understand. They must have really big things in store for Pac, because this is one of your foundation guys, and you got him losing. I'm not really sure. The booking really baffled me on this whole card.
I think it's a case of let's make Pac happy, because apparently that's very difficult to do.
All right, let's move on here to. I want to talk about this in isolation, and then I'll group together the tag team match and Riho versus Sheeta, because what the fuck. But the Cracker Barrel Clash.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Oh, my God. First of all, I don't think AEW is going to last long if somebody dies in the middle of one of their rings. More on that with the Bucks.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, if this keeps up with fucking, with the garbage wrestlers and what they're doing, one of them is going to end, Darby's fucking ass bump on the barrel on the stairs by a hair's breadth could have gone one way or the other. He's fucking dead. Joey Janela face planting.
The moonsault.
Yeah, Joey Janela face planting. I thought he broke every bone in his body. He's apparently made of rubber, the kind that Gumby is made out of, because he didn't bounce. He just kind of splat and then didn't move, and I legit thought he was dead. I don't think Jimmy Havoc took any huge, death-defying bumps, but there was just, I know I'm known on this network as being a bit weak in the stomach with things that others would not be grossed out by. Whatever, I own that. But this was a bit much for me, and I'm okay with throwing Cactus Jack off the fucking Hell in the Cell. That never bothered me. I'm okay with, not for... We talked about it. I don't need to rehash this again. But generally speaking, I'm okay with the amount of blood that was in the Dustin Brothers match from a few months ago. But there was stuff going on in this match that was just gross and unnecessary. I don't know who likes this stuff, but this was the worst thing I've ever seen, Pat. This was far and away. This went beyond hardcore. This went beyond garbage match. This was utterly unnecessary, and if they keep doing it, I don't think this company lasts 5 years, if that long, and I might be overselling it.
No, the company lasts 5 years. These guys won't.
Not if they die in the ring.
No, they'll find some other morons to do the same shit. All three of these guys are terrible. All three of these guys are outlaw fucking mud show backyard wrestlers. And Jimmy Havoc graduated from the same training class in England as Zack Sabre Jr., and they could not be more polar opposite. And I'm not a big Zack Sabre fan, because I think the guy needs to work out maybe once or twice and put some muscle on to make his shit look good and believable. But he's the fucking tits compared to Jimmy Havoc, whose high spots include a staple gun and a piece of paper to inflict paper cuts.
I got up and walked out of the room when he got the paper cut. When he got the paper
He does it all the time.
Yeah,
he does it all the time.
I fucking, like, it's what, like, that's A, gross, B, I honestly didn't want to watch anymore out of protest. I don't know who I'm protesting to, and I don't know if it matters. It probably doesn't. Definitely doesn't. Like, no one's paying attention to what I do in my living room, but I left the room.
But again, okay, like, that's what he does. Fucking Darby Allin takes bumps where he kills himself. Joey Janela takes bumps where he should kill himself and doesn't. When you have a match with this much gimmickry around it, with tables and thumbtacks on a skateboard and all that shit, and the stuff that scares you and makes you squeamish are these bumps that they take without gimmicks, that's not a good sign.
Oh my god, the thumbtacks in the mouth and then taping his mouth shut. I'm like, that's one of the examples of this is gross and unnecessary.
Yep.
You know, I watched Jimmy Havoc and Sami Callihan at a live Impact show, and Callihan can work when he wants to, but Jimmy Havoc sucks. He's just fucking terrible. He's a deathmatch guy, and he doesn't even take the fucking deathmatch bumps and shit that everybody else does. He just fucking staples people and uses a goddamn piece of paper. Motherfucker, extra cheese.
Chris, I hate it. And like I said, I like a good hardcore street fight, whatever, as much as the next wrestling fan. But this has gone sort of beyond that, and I honestly think these guys should be left off the next major card. Like give it a rest for a while. You know what I mean?
So Mark, you're in charge. Say, for example, you own Cracker Barrel, and you're thinking to yourself, I would like to sponsor this really good up-and-coming promotion and make my company look good. And this is the shit you're sponsoring. Oh, my God. The Cracker Barrel Clash. This will go down in history as one of the biggest, stupidest matches. It's a sign of what's wrong with AEW. Just think about this. So you've got all kinds of finishes, so you're booking this card. Just imagine what it's like backstage. Okay, you guys, you're going to win with a double power bomb. You're going to win via submission. You guys are going to go out and fucking kill each other. That's basically all the rules were to this. I think Jimmy Havoc always gets off easy. Take a look at the matches that he's been in since AEW's been there. He gets away with doing practically nothing. You got Darby Allin, who basically falls from the roof doing this dead man's drop every single match. You got Joey Janela, who falls on tacks. I mean, everything in the world that this guy... Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, these guys are killing themselves. Jimmy Havoc is getting off scot-free. He's like, woohoo, I got my staple gun and my paper, and that's all I need to do. But I don't know, man. I'm sick of this garbage wrestling. These, like you said, man, Pat, you're right on the money. These guys won't be around. This is an afterthought. They're just out there to die for the sake of the company. And I really don't know how this is going to fit in when it comes to their TV show, man. It just doesn't fit.
The Dark Order defeated the Best Friends. And
garbage.
Holy
shit.
We have to talk about this?
No, not for very long.
Garbage.
No, I really want to get through this and move on to NXT UK. So
Creepers.
Let's just do this. The Dark Order won a first round bye in the AEW tag team. Look, they're gonna fight the fucking Young Bucks, assuming the Young Bucks haven't turned their backs into tiny pieces of chalk. The Best Friends, Trent Beretta. And we've said it before. We'll say it again. Fire Chuck Taylor. Let Trent Beretta run as a single and be done with this already. And then Tiny Japanese Wife defeated Hikaru. Fuck your mom.
Not going to work here anymore.
Shida. I don't know what the obsession with this particular Rihu gal is. She's a fine enough wrestler, but she's all of 98 pounds. So what the fuck? Maybe her and Marco Stunt can have an intergender feud. I don't know.
Stop it. They just wrote that down.
Would it really be intergender?
Pat, just shit on this and let's move on.
This was fucking terrible. I didn't care about any of it. Again, if I don't know the Dark Order, explain who they are. They didn't. Nobody gives a shit. This was terrible. This was just guys doing moves and terrible counters, and then to top it off, they fucking bring in some shitbag Orange Cassidy, who is one of the worst things out there.
I guess this is like the irony crowd that likes him. From what I'm picking up hither and thither, this is a college wrestling fan, ironic indie thing that have embraced Orange Cassidy. It's beyond stupid in his spot where they put him in the ring after they turned out the lights, and he was cooler than the other side of the pillow and did his jump outside of the ring with his hands in his pocket.
That looked fun.
Yeah. And then he was the meat in a best friend sandwich at the end. Oh boy.
Oh no.
Chris, talk to me. 50 words or less on both of these, and let's keep going.
I don't want to.
Okay.
The best friends suck. The Dark Order and the Creepers. Man, I'm telling you right now, this is the kind of shit you get your computer seized and dragged out on the news with the cops. That's the type of shit that this is. It gives me the creeps. Let's move on from that crap.
Alrighty.
Oh my god. You got Riho and Shida? Yeah. Okay, so two nameless Japanese girls, they wrestle over a match. One of them is going to get crucified by Nyla Rose. Or maybe not at the next pay-per-view. Garbage.
I would almost guarantee you Riho wins the world title.
Oh, my God. Yes. Why will this pain ever stop?
Yes, my daughter, who might weigh more than Riho, is going to defeat the Nyla Rose, the Beast.
Cracker Barrel, everybody. Cracker Barrel.
Cody.
Eat at Sony's, everybody.
After this one, yes.
Holla if you hear me.
Cody, stop doing the best dressed costume party thing. Just stop it. Just enough already. I hate Triple H, but I'm going to do every fucking thing that he did, only with an ironic twist. Just knock it off. With MJF, which is confusing. Defeated
and DDP, who is clearly going to die because he was redshirted.
Yes, defeated Sean Spears, and for some reason Tully Blanchard. Cody and Sean Spears put on a fine match, and there was a lot of silliness. And I guess this is a slow burn feud to Cody versus MJF, who did not have a match on this card and was utterly, more or less, useless on the outside. Pat?
Listen, here's again the stupidity of how they're trying to play to these fans. Okay, MJF's the best heel in wrestling outside of WWE. So Cody's a babyface, I guess, but he's aligned with MJF because what Sean Spears did with the unprotected chair shot was so heinous that even the heel MJF has come to Cody's defense about how terrible it was breaking character while he's on TV, supposedly in character. Who's fucking booking this? Vince Russo? This is
It's a swerve, bro. It's a swerve.
This is fucking terrible booking, which is a shame because the match itself was fine. I could have done without the Arn and Tully stuff. I get that Tully is Spears' manager. That's an interesting role. I would actually like to see play out more. To see what Tully can do there, because he's a very good dickhead, and if he can bring that out of somebody, then you've got another heel to establish. But, for what this was, Cody in the fucking Star Trek unit was dumb. I don't get what he's trying to accomplish with these elaborate entrances with his fight team, and it's putting dumb shit where it doesn't need to be. It's, again, Mark brought up the point, criticizing Triple H for his stuff, then doing the exact same thing and worse. It's just, again, this is so all over the place during an otherwise fine match. I'll give it 3 stars, 3.5 maybe.
In defense of Triple H, when he did the stupid entrances, he did them at WrestleMania. And he was trying to establish himself. Like this, I think this started with John Cena, like 10, 20 years ago. And they did the, he did the Conan thing, and he did it a couple of times, and he's kind of done something elaborate. He only does it at WrestleMania, though. Cody does this every time he comes out. And it's like, you do it, look, when they did Double or Nothing, I think it was, and he smashed the throne. It's childish, but at least, okay, message heard, you unsubtle person, you. Stop doing it after that. Now it's just, you're just running it into the ground.
Yeah, I'm assuming the next, show they do, he'll come out with like a Legend of Zelda themed entrance. I'm not kidding. I really think he's going to do it because he's done, the fake fight team for the Nick Aldis match, the throne, breaking, and then this was Star Trek for some reason. I don't understand this Star Trek thing unless he's a big Star Trek fan, which would make sense to me. But, again, this is just dumb, and it's going to continue and get dumber. And you're trying to put a serious situation together where Shawn Spears did this unprovoked attack that was so heinous that the best heel in the business baby-faced for a match, and you follow it up by coming to the ring dressed as Captain Kirk.
Picard. Kirk would have worn yellow.
Yeah, Picard. Picard sucks anyway, but I'm just saying, like, that's where we're going with this. Yeah, this is the alternative. This is the better book than WWE, who we armchair book all the time because they suck.
Yeah, but Pat, we just witnessed the Dark Order and their and their creepers. So you know what? When I see Brandy Rhodes as 7 of 9, I'm losing a tube sock there, brothers. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go there, but good Lord, that was fantastic.
So nobody's talking about Cody Rhodes' poor dog who was frightened to death after the fireworks display, and they had to drag the damn dog down the ramp because he's horrified.
Let me tell you something. I wanted to punch Cody in the mouth for that.
Me too. You know what? The right thing to do was to turn the dog and bring him backstage. That's all you had to do. The right thing to do was
leave the dog at fucking home.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Did we learn nothing from the Kennel from Hell, which would have been preferable?
Shit and piss all over the floor. Who cares? I used to work at a PetSmart, guys. You know what? I cleaned up more shit and piss in a public environment than anyone cares to admit. That's all I'll tell you. Anyway, a couple things about this one, Mark. Why did Shawn Spears have black contact lenses? Does anyone know?
God, I don't know.
I don't think it's they just were contacts. I think he's trying to provoke Tully from 1988 and did it.
He went blind after the pyro like the dog. I don't know. But you had some interesting things. Bumps in the night were taken by poor Tully Blanchard, who was bouncing around out there like Shawn Michaels versus Hulk Hogan back at SummerSlam back in the day. You had poor beer-bellied Arn Anderson, who could barely roll into the ring, although he hit the spine buster, so I will say that was amazing.
I said it before, and I'll say it again. Had they sent Ole Anderson out after that, I would have not complained about this card. I'd be like, all right, I'm done. Perfect.
First of all, if Ole would have came out there, the look of disgust on his face would have just given me a massive erection. More than Brandy.
I got to tell you my Arn Anderson story. This will take 2 seconds. So Arn Anderson showed up in my town, so he was going to be at a local wrestling.
I heard that when Arn Anderson comes to town, people could say that Arn Anderson comes to town.
That's exactly right. Anyway, so I managed to hook myself up some platinum VIP tickets, of course, which is supposed to come with a meet and greet with Arn Anderson. So I was standing in line. As soon as I get there, I notice that the people in front of me are being charged. So now, not only did I pay an inordinate amount of money to, see Arn Anderson, all of a sudden, now he's going to charge me $20 for standing in his presence. So myself and my friends removed ourselves from the line. We got in front of his table, and we took a selfie to his dismay. It's up on my Facebook. You got to see it. It's amazing. It's the cheapest low-budget meet and greet you'll ever see, but we saved $20. So thank you, Arn Anderson. There you go. That's my story. Moving on.
All right. Let's wrap up these two. I don't have a whole lot to say about Jericho Page. I'm just, it was fine.
Chris Jericho's fat.
Chris Jericho is fat. Chris Jericho needs to hit
bald.
a fucking. Chris Jericho
Nobody's
needs to
talking about Chris.
Chris Jericho needs to hit a fucking gym. Is what he needs to do. I'm okay with him being bald. Put on a do-rag. Start saying brother a lot. You'll be fine.
He's got the Randy Savage baldness happening.
But for God's sakes, he's fucking just ballooning out of his pants. Like, just stop already. Like, I'm okay with putting the name WWE guy, making him carry the title. Paige is now in a chase. You get a couple of other guys in there. You build some mystery as to, who's eventually going to dethrone this jackass. They had a fine match. Paige and Jericho can both wrestle. Jericho just needs to hit a gym. What I really want to talk about, and what I don't understand, is this company is being built, especially their tag team division, honestly, is being built around the Young Bucks, who are 5 feet tall and 12 years old. It's fine. People like them. They've made a lot of money for themselves. God bless America, and only America. Whatever. Come on, no one remembers that quote, that reference.
Tell me the reference. I'm interested.
It's a Chris Rock movie where he's the president. Anyway, so
I saw that in theaters. Couldn't tell you anything about it.
I just remember that one line. Anyway, doesn't matter. So the Young Bucks, I get it. They've had 197 matches with the Lucha Brothers. I get you want to do something special. I love a good ladder match. You're about to go on TNT. Is there a reason the Young Bucks decided now's a good time for them to kill themselves? I like. On the one hand, this match was a little painful for me to watch, just because the kind of spots that the Young Bucks took off the ladders, where they were landing on their heads and backs, a la Joey Janela. Maybe save this. Maybe fall off a ladder onto your fucking head for down the road a bit. Maybe don't go into your TNT debut completely beat the fuck with broken bones. I don't understand. Like, it was like, it by itself, with no context, this was a fun match to watch. It was a fun ladder match, and it was presumably a good culmination to this feud that has gone on since the Carter administration. It's fine. I just think the timing was all wrong, and I'm concerned for the Young Bucks' health. Pat?
I love Pentagon and I love Phoenix. Pentagon is like probably and I don't know that we can still consider him independent because I don't know how we're classifying AEW. But at one point in time, Pentagon easily the best independent guy out there. Phoenix not far behind him. Just the bumps in this match, like especially, and I hate to criticize it, but the finish with the double stomp pile driver onto the ladder bridge, was it really necessary? When I'm starting to question, is this really necessary? It's probably going a little bit further than we need to. And, I've never been a fan of the Bucks. I realize that they've gotten better since their Generation Me years in TNA, where they literally were only super kicks and flips before they capitalized on that and realized, hey, this is all we do, but it's ironic. Let's market the irony. I don't know. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Chris?
Boy, you got a lot going on here in this match. What happened to the days when, we thought a great ladder match was Shawn Michaels falling off the second rung and nutting himself on the ropes? Like, these guys have moved the game up of dangerousness in a ladder match to the point where nobody is ever going to be able or want to do a ladder match ever again. I mean, Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon must be sitting back going, "Oye, Chico, this is fucking trash, bro."
Hey, not for nothing, but Triple H said of the Attitude Era, specifically of the triangle feud between the Dudleys, the Hardys, and Edge and Christian, that they got it to the point where the next step was kill somebody in the ring, and that's why that shit stopped.
Well, this is what's going on here, because one of these teams are going to die eventually. One thing they had the mask spot that I didn't see coming. They actually ripped the mask off of one of the guys, which was crazy, which was unbelievable. And of course, the ending with the reveal of the two masked presidents and the reveal of Santana and Ortiz. I thought that was a pretty cool ending there. So I was pleased with that. As for the main event with Chris Jericho, Chris Jericho's hair is so bad. Everyone talks about his gut, but I think he's growing his gut out to cover up the fact that he's going bald, because he's got the Shawn Michaels bacon strip going on, where he's just wrapping it around in a coil and hairspraying that shit in place, hoping that it'll stay. But the dude is starting to look, like crazy out of shape. I did like Aubrey Edwards as the referee, though. The female ref was a pretty cool thing, man. That woman can jump around.
Good.
Yeah, she was really good. And, her interaction with Jericho was solid. Jericho coming out to his own theme music is a bit pompous, but it works. I don't like his new gimmick, the Painmaker. It's a stupid gimmick for him.
Go watch Okada's promo on the Painmaker name.
Oh, well, yeah?
He basically says what we all think.
I'll tell you what I think of something. Adam Page, bro, the guy is not over. You could come out on a horse. You can drop the horse from the fucking ceiling and go to the glue factory. It does not matter. The right person won. I'm glad he put the belt on Jericho, even though he lost it at fucking Longhorn Steakhouse in a drunken spindle. So, whatever. I thought both matches were great. Good ending to the pay-per-view.
I really did like Jericho versus Page. I think Page got underscored very heavily in the right way. And I understand the angle of let's put the belt on the biggest name we have right before we're going to go on TV. So there's a perception of that, okay, this guy's carrying their belt. That's a legitimization to the audience who may not have watched any of their shows. They will know Chris Jericho as a wrestling fan. And when they see he's their champion, okay. However, on the flip side, they're not seeing Chris Jericho 2001, 2005, 2010, etc.
They're seeing Axl Rose, now. Chris Jericho.
Yeah. And that's why I didn't like the decision to put him over. I get it, but he looks like shit.
Yeah. So here, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We should all do this. The good, the bad, and the ugly, 10 words or less. The good... Most of the wrestling on this show was good. The production was mostly the best I've seen yet and looked WWE-ish. And there were no childish digs at the other companies. And most, not all, but most of the chicanery was cut away. They signed Orange Cassidy. I guess you got to use them. I can forgive it once. So outside of, really bad stuff. Okay, well, so that's the good. The bad, the hardcore match was the worst thing ever, and I'm afraid the Young Bucks are dead. They've tweeted they're alive. Could be just the people running their accounts. We don't know. And Jericho's fat. So,
and bald.
And bald. Pat, what's good, what's bad? 10 words or less, go.
Adam Page is great. Pentagon's great. Teal Piper's cute. Yeah, let's move on.
Chris, go.
Adam Page on a horse. Dark Order. Let me see. Kenny Omega tapping out for no particular reason. Jimmy Havoc and his stapler. That's all I got to say.
All right, folks. We're going to take a pause for the cause here and tell you a little something about an app I love. It's called Podcoin. Hey, everybody. I really do hope you love the Radulich Broadcasting Network. Did you know that you can actually get paid just for listening to this podcast? I know it sounds insane, but it's true. We just discovered this free new app called Podcoin, and it literally pays you to listen to podcasts. Here's how it works. You listen to podcasts, and you earn Podcoin while you listen. Then you turn that Podcoin in for gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks, or if you're a good person, you could even donate that Podcoin to charity. The more you listen, the more you earn. Here's what you do. Download the app right now on iPhone or Android, and I have a special code for you. Simply use our code MARKWED5. That's capital MARKWED 5. Capital MARKWED 5. MARKWED 5. And you'll get 300 Podcoin just for signing up. And if you listen to enough of us on there, you can get a cappuccino at Starbucks or an Amazon gift card on us. So go ahead and go listen to this podcast or virtually any podcast on Podcoin and sign up with code MARKWED5. I swear it'll change the way you listen to podcasts. All right, we are back. And
Mark, how come you didn't say one?
Hate you, Pat. Hate you but love you. Love you but hate you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about ready to talk about NXT UK Takeover Cardiff, but we are joined by one of the hosts of the Cosmic Treadmill. Ladies and gentlemen, how you doing, Chris Sheehan?
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well, Chris. I listened to your last Cosmic Treadmill regarding, what was the name of the character again?
Resurrection Man?
Yeah, Resurrection Man. That's the one I
Yeah.
listened to, where you spent the first few minutes of the podcast telling us your struggles. And I just want you to know, you are not alone, my friend.
No, my friend. We've all put that extra notch in the belt, Chris.
I may speak for the trees, but you speak for me, Chris Sheehan. My goodness.
Well, it's nice to know that it resonates and that I am not the only man who expanded at the waist after becoming a grown-up.
You said your weakness is cookies, and I just cried. Said, it's mine too!
I tell you, I have a thing where, like, if any restaurant within, like, 500 miles has something on their menu called the Cookie Monster, I will find them, and I will eat it. So, yes, it's a true weakness. It's my kryptonite. It's trouble.
It's fantastic.
Nachos is my vice. I have a rule: no nachos, no Chris.
There you go.
Chris, you'll appreciate this. Mine is Tim Hortons.
Oh, well played. Super Canuckish.
So, Mr. Sheehan, we have been talking about a bunch of alphabet soup you know nothing about. It's AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. We've been doubling up on these matches as we talk about them because none of us want to be here till 5 o'clock in the morning. So
cool.
we're going to kick things off with you and your thoughts on our opening matches here. Noam Dar versus who defeated Travis Banks, and then Cesaro stepping out from the main card where he gets beaten like a drum, took on some sort of Dracula guy.
Dragon face, dragon mouth. There he is.
There it is. So, Noam Dar, Travis Banks put on a professional, reasonable, entertaining opening match, and
Sure.
Cesaro swung a guy for an hour and a half. Your thoughts, sir?
I forgot all about Noam Dar. I remember when they launched the Cruiser division, what was like 2016, 2017, he was kind of one of the...
With Alicia Fox.
Yeah, he was like one of the standouts because he actually had a personality. And then he disappeared, and I never knew where he went. I thought maybe he was gone. And then when I see him here, because I haven't been following the weekly UK show, I'd like to, but I just never get around to it. I was happy to see him. I thought he was. I think he's got a great personality. I think he's got a heck of a moveset. The match, it kind of bored me a little bit. It just didn't end. It just kept going, which I think. You know, when you have an opening match like that and it's high impact and high flying, I think that that there is a time you turn the heat off on that, and I think they overstepped, and it kind of left me just tired. I was fatigued from the match. I think the right guy won because I don't even know who the other guy. I kept thinking of like was it like Blink 182's drummer? Is that like Travis Banks or whatever?
Close enough.
Yeah, good enough.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't pick either of them out of a lineup if I had to. They could deliver a pizza to my door and I wouldn't know. But I thought the right guy won, and it was decent, but didn't blow me away. What did blow me away was Cesaro. Cesaro is probably my favorite wrestler going right now, and just seeing that he can be like this unstoppable, scary Terminator-type character, as they portrayed him here in the UK show, it's just maddening. How just 2 days later he's laying down for the Miz. He just seems like such a missed opportunity. Who made the mistake of getting over before he was allowed to get over, and he really shined here. I think the end of the match was a little too kick-outy. I think it was just like a lot of murder shots that we were getting 2 counts on. But again, the right guy won. Cesaro did win, and I was very pleased to see that.
Mr. Mullin, your thoughts on our opener and then the Cesaro show?
So I'm a fan of both Noam and Travis Banks. Travis Banks just had a TV program with Walter that was excellent. I'm shocked that Noam Dar went over here as a result of that because Banks won a tournament, was in a prestigious position, gave a good accounting against Walter, and then to see him open the show and lose to Noam Dar clean was very surprising and makes me think that maybe there's a big plan for Dar in place, which I'd be okay with because he does have a personality and he is a strong performer, and he definitely adds color to the UK show, which, besides this being my favorite weekly wrestling show, if there is a need, it is for more colorful personalities, and he can bring that. And then it was fun to see Cesaro be Cesaro again. Just to be this freak athlete who's so polished and so smooth in the ring and can be an absolute Terminator, like Chris said, was fantastic. Dragunov is a good performer, and he was the right guy here to let Cesaro do his best and underscore it really well. I thought him not hitting his finish, and Cesaro, which is probably the one thing I will criticize most matches of, this was a tease of finish, but not actually getting the finish and getting a kick out on it. They teased the Torpedo Moscow, but Cesaro instead caught him with that pop-up uppercut, which was beautiful, and then actually hit his own finish, which we rarely ever see him use because he's usually looking up at the lights, the Gotch Neutralizer, and got a clean, awesome win.
Go ahead, Chris. Bailey?
I was surprised that Travis Banks did not go over Noam Dar. I mean, it didn't really make sense. And another problem with 2019 wrestling is the lack of finishing moves. Is it so hard to give a guy a finishing move? Not everybody has to use a knee strike as a finisher. Jesus, it's getting on my nerves. Will everybody just, make a finishing move? How hard is it? Jesus Christ. I'm tired of it. Just finish somebody, like a perfect plex, a Randy Savage elbow. Have a finishing move, people. A knee strike just doesn't do it for me. Sorry. But the crowd was insanely into everything this particular night. And this one really had not much going on in the opener. I mean, it was pretty well, paint by numbers, blah, match, but the crowd was unusually into it, which flowed over well when Cesaro came over because this guy was mega over. He looked like a superstar from when his Titantron came on. Dragunov was absolutely the right character to play this, or to fight him or whatever, because for the simple fact he sold every bit of his offense so well. When he hit the neutralizer, he had that little bit of a rock jump. You know what I mean? When the Rock used to sell the stunner, he had that extra little spark. Yeah, the bounce. He had the bounce. And man, when Cesaro was hitting these uppercuts, oh my God, the pop-up uppercut is really something, man. And when he did, how many swings did he do? He did 40s. Holy crap. So good. Cesaro looked like a star. The crowd was mega into it at this point, so this went really, really good. And I liked the little touch at the end when Cesaro came back and he hugged Dragunov, and you could tell he did a little speech to him in his ear, which was pretty classy, man. I really, really like. You knew this guy wasn't going to fly overseas to just have a little squash match. He was there to even he put Dragunov over, even though Dragunov lost. So I think this was a wicked, wicked match and really well played for Cesaro.
One more thing, though, I wanted to mention here. He did that gorilla press into like a sort of go to sleep, and for a half second when he had him up over his head, I thought he was going to bust out a UFO. Have you ever seen Cesaro's UFO?
Yes.
Oh, unidentified flying opponents.
God. I mean, if he did that, put every belt on him if he does that. That's just...
Have you ever seen
that is a finishing...
That is something that he should bust out, and people would just lose their minds. And I thought for a half second we were going to get that with that gorilla press. But,
Mark, have you ever seen that?
Probably not, or maybe just not knowing that it's called a UFO.
So, he gets the guy basically in a torture rack type position,
right?
And then just picture him doing the big swing, but in that position, and then eventually doing it without his hands and just having them on his neck and shoulders.
Swinging around,
basically like a non-handed airplane spin.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but the guy's going around him when he's like ducking his body, with his head.
Oh, he's like really spinning him on his shoulders, not like. Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah, Pat, if you can find that, send it to me in Messenger or whatever. So I have two favorite matches on. Well, first, let me say one of the things I'm not crazy about NXT going 2 hours to USA Network. I think they're gonna have an overexposure problem and a not yet ready for primetime players problem. But the upside to this, and you can throw NXT UK in there, is that not everybody is going to work on the two main rosters right now. It's just such weirdly, it's really crowded, and the creative kind of has attention deficit disorder when it comes to certain guys. So it's nice that there's the ability now to travel within. Thanks, Pat. Within the WWE, and go Cesaro to NXT UK, Tyler Breeze to NXT proper, and do other things while still maintaining a TV presence. That's one of the things. That's one of the high points of WWE right now.
It's like a touring element.
Yeah, I will say if there's a negative, it's that people keep talking about a potential Kings of Wrestling reunion with Cesaro and Cassius Ohno, and keep Cesaro away from that fucking cottage cheese looking son of a bitch.
Yeah, Cassius Ohno Cassius Ohno was just fine doing opening matches and
he's not. Losing. He's a fat piece of shit.
He's fat.
It's a thyroid problem.
Very good, Mom.
He's putting the extra notch in the belt, Sheehan.
No doubt. He's got a weakness for cookies, too.
Oh, goodness gracious. Cosmic Treadmill, everybody. Check it out on Podcoin or Podpeso, whichever you like.
All of them.
So there's my two favorite matches on here were the main event, Walter versus Tyler Bates, which everyone says was singularly the best match of the entire weekend, but we'll get to that in a bit. But my 1A was this triple threat tag team match for the NXT UK Tag Championships. The grizzled young veterans, Gallus, and my new favorite wrestler, the Mod Father, Flash Morgan Webster, and Mark.
It's awesome.
My wife is like the biggest Anglophile you're ever going to see, short of Andrew Graham's wife, maybe. She's just big into The Crown and Downton Abbey. I took her to the Downton Abbey exhibit for her for Christmas this year. She's just all about the Beatles and everything English. And so I showed her the Mod Father, and she just thought it was the best thing ever. If anything's going to get her to watch NXT UK, it's that fucking guy. Well, the right guys went over in this match, and they pulled off a hell of a match here. It's worth kind of talking about by itself, only because Joe Coffey, Dave Mastiff, which followed it. Oi!
Disaster.
Oh,
Disaster.
Boy.
I mean, this was the NXT UK Cardiff was probably the best overall card of the entire weekend. But if there was anything dragging it down, it was this. It was Joe Coffey versus Dave Mastiff. Yuck!
So disappointing.
I mean, I love a good monster match, but Jesus Christ, I'd have preferred to watch Nyla Rose wrestle. But back to the best match, the triple threat tag team. This was great stuff. The smaller guys fought from underneath between the two sets of big monster guys, and they walked away as the crowd favorites with the tag team titles. Loved it, Mr. Sheehan. If you say anything bad about the Mod Father, you'll break my heart. Break it in two.
Go ahead, Sheehan.
I don't like his haircut, but everything else was great. I thought it was a great match. I didn't know any of these guys going into this, but they won me over. All of them did. It was a great match. Just even the two big guys were surprisingly agile. There was that one that did what the hell was it? It was like a springboard somersault into a spear. I mean, it was just wild stuff, and it might have suffered a little bit in the false finish sort of a thing, but that's just a WWE thing these days. But yeah, I really solid match, and I really enjoyed it.
Mr. Mullin, tell me all the good things about the Mod Father.
He can work. He has a unique gimmick, which is good. I'm not totally sold on them, even though this was the best I'd ever seen Flash Morgan look. Mark Andrews has been pretty good for a long time. So when they put them together, I thought maybe this was a good way to keep Andrews to avoid being lost in the singles shuffle, and for Morgan to maybe get him some polish, and they have. They've gelled really well as a team. I don't like that they took the belts off of Zach Gibson and James Drake this early, but the match itself was outstanding. It's certainly not the end for the grizzled young veterans, and I think Mark Coffey and Wolfgang played into what they needed to here really well in terms of being that big natural disaster type force that would change the course of the action. And then when Drake and Andrews really when Webster and Andrews really saw they had to go all out for it, with that shooting star press finish. That was excellent. Really great match. Super let down by Dave Mastiff, Joe Coffey, because Joe Coffey I've been a huge fan of since before NXT UK. I saw him have a great match with Minoru Suzuki that really made me a fan. I think he tried his best. Dave Mastiff's been very hit and miss, and this was not a good outing for him. I get that the turnbuckle spot was supposed to be, this wild card in play, but a lot of what they did was just very sloppy and off, and they didn't have each other's rhythm down. The Finley roll on the table was good, but everything else was meh until even the finish, while creative, was very unsatisfying for this type of match. Real swing and a miss.
Bailey.
Best match of the entire weekend was this particular one. The crowd interaction here alone was absolutely incredible. Like Sheehan said, I didn't really know many of these guys. Like I know Gallus. Like I have a surface knowledge of these teams, but man, I really got invested by the end of this one. They had some great some moves in this match, man. What the hell just happened?
And we've just been joined by Ghost Rider.
Oh, good Lord. But anyway, they did a suicide dive doomsday device on the outside. They had a cool finisher called the Stun Dog Millionaire, which I really love. And the shooting star press at the end too. What a finish. And you just take a look, you could just turn your TV off and just watch the reaction of those fans, man. They exploded when those guys won those tag titles. Oh my God, Andrews and Morgan. It was unbelievable. And now on the other side, you went from a incredible high to a loaded bag of dicks, which is Mastiff and Coffee, which is I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, this was just it was a brawl all over the place. They used this massive production crate that you could tell that these guys were going to fall through. It's just trash. I don't have anything else to say about that. Just garbage.
So I have been a champion of Shayna Baszler and her two flunkies. Every time we've gotten together to discuss wrestling, I have just been tooting my horn about how great Shayna Baszler is. And, one of the joys of watching wrestling is the NXT women's division, especially since Banner has had the title. So I thought, Chris Bailey, that Kaylee Ray and Toni Storm would live up to the consistency that is the NXT women's division. They are the definition of fucking forgettable. You know what I mean?
Boy, they did not come close to your classic NXT type of match. This was an extremely basic match. Like, they did a lot of holds. There was not really any of the moves, like even like the German suplexes. Everything looked soft. Everything looked dull. Even the crowd was sort of muted in this one. So when you got two people, I was surprised that Kaylee Ray won the title. I got to be quite honest with you. The only thing I can think of is that Toni Storm is coming to prime time when they launch their new show. That's the only thing I can think of. It just anything else doesn't make sense. Kaylee Lee Ray doesn't look like a star at all. I just questionable this one.
Yeah, I don't get it. Chris Sheehan?
I agree with everything you just said. It's this match. It wasn't terribly long, but it felt like I needed like a running start to get through it because it was just so basic, and I can't even remember anything about it except for who won. And you're right, she doesn't stand out. I don't know. I like, is this the best they could do if they had to get the belt off of Toni? Is they put it on this one? I don't know, but it was boring, and it felt like it lasted an hour.
Pat?
This match definitely could have used candy floss. I'll start with there. People who watch NXT UK will get that reference. This fell into the stuff we were talking about earlier where there's false finish on the actual finisher for both sides, which I'm never a huge fan of, especially for a match that didn't go into epic territory the way this didn't. I was shocked, like everybody else, that Kaylee Ray won. Their issue was largely very personal, but they didn't wrestle that way, which always kind of peeves me. It's like, I hate you. I'm going to start off with a hammerlock. Like, come on. It was not terribly long in the tradition of NXT or NXT UK women's matches. The way we had Toni Storm and Rhea Ripley's rivalry take off and go. This was definitely a downgrade. Kaylee Ray has not yet established herself as anything other than she used to be a friend of Toni Storm and then said mean things.
That's literally the entire base of the feud.
Yeah, I got to think she's being used as a transition where Toni gets a call up to NXT proper, and we see somebody like Xia Brookside maybe take the belt off of Kaylee Ray very quickly.
I think they missed an opportunity here to send over Io Shirai, who I know is in a feud.
Don't take Io Shirai off of anything. She's the best active wrestler in the world right now.
No. Hear me out on this. Hear me out.
But she's crazy. She's crazy.
Io Shirai is locked in a feud with Mrs. Gargano. Fine, yay. I think they would have been better off sending her over there to take the title off of Toni, and then take it back. She can kind of flip between the two, and you reward her for all of her hard work. You give her a title that she can defend on both brands, and you would have had an infinitely better match out of it. Putting it on the mannequin that was Kaylee Ray made no sense to me, but such is life.
Still better than anything AEW did with the women. I don't care.
At least I knew who these people were.
Amen.
And in a 45-minute nearly classic, the Big Strong Boy, love that name, by the way. I was running around the house, just everything, Big Strong Boy. I grabbed a kid, and I sat him down on the couch, and I said, over there, there's a Big Strong Boy. And they said, let go of me. I'm watching YouTube. And I said, you need to watch a Big Strong Boy. My wife only wanted to punch me in the...
Watch his Instagram, Mark.
Okay. My wife only wanted to punch me in the throat 3 times for never getting off of that. Anyway, the Big Strong Boy, Walter, defeated Mr. Mustache, Tyler Bate. This was bonkers. This match. This is why we watch wrestling. It's right here. It's all wrapped up in this match. Walter is. I want to see Walter and Brock Lesnar go at it, and I want to see Walter send Brock Lesnar into retirement. And you know me, I'm a huge Brock Lesnar fan, but I think these two should just main event WrestleMania in Tampa. Walter is insane. He's great, and this was probably one of the best matches of the weekend on the best card of the weekend, don't you think, Chris Sheehan? Well, you wouldn't know what else was going on this weekend, but just
other stuff happened.
Just tell me I'm right.
I know a dog almost got hit with a firework, right?
Yes.
Hey, E-Dub. Hey, E-Dub.
Hey, we talked about that earlier.
I think the dog would have jumped on the fireworks had he had known what a shit show that show was.
Why is the dog committing harikari? Chris Sheehan, tell me all the things.
This match, this was a 45 some odd minute match, and it only felt like it ran like 10. It was just a wonderful match. I bought in because you stand these two next to each other, and it's like there's no chance Bates got any chance, and I bought in, and it actually surprised me when he didn't at the end. I really thought that they were doing like the Vader Sting thing, where the little guy was actually gonna eke out the win. I'd like to see Walter fight Shayna Baszler. I think that'd be a good fight. That should be on one of the next takeovers. That could be a good one. But no, Walter's awesome. Just the poor Tyler Bates' chest. It could look like hamburger at the end of it.
He took a bump on his head, and I'm like, oh my god, Tyler Bates is now in the coffin with the Young Bucks. Jesus fucking Christ!
Power bomb to the ring post.
Oh yeah, that was ugly too.
Horrendous.
Just such a hard hitting and wonderful match. It made me, like you just said, it's why we watch wrestling. This made me believe that a match could go either way when so many things feel so predetermined these days. And it was a very special match, and it's not the kind of match we see often enough.
Pat Mullin, why was Walter versus Tyler Bates, if not the best, one of the best matches of the weekend?
Right now, it's my number 2 match of the year, and that's only behind Walter and Pete Dunne from Takeover WrestleMania weekend. This just was an incredible effort where you had the solid story of the Big Strong Boy not being able to rely on just strength against this massive tank of brutality known as Walter, where it was largely a personal issue with British Strong Style versus Imperium, but it came down to the guy who right now is the face of British Strong Style with Pete Dunne in NXT, and the head guy of Imperium, who also happens to hold the belt that Tyler Bate held before anybody. The back and forth was incredible. Seeing the different transitions that Bate would have to make into his game to try to stay competitive and ahead of Walter, it was so well executed. And Walter just going back to what he knows, being brutal and vicious and using his size and just not ever, giving up. Like when he hit the power bomb and Bate kicked out, I'm like, oh, maybe it's a hope spot. Nope, they just dialed up Walter. Chops, big ass fucking lariat, killed Bate. Amazing. Just start to finish, amazing. My number 2 match of the year.
A main event match should be like a symphony, Chris Bailey. It should take you on a journey. It should evoke passion and emotion. And Walter versus Tyler Bate did all the things, didn't it?
It did. This was amazing match. It was like a reversal of fortunes here. You had the little guy playing basically the powerhouse, throwing around the giant. It was David versus Goliath. I think this is honestly what I expected Hogan and Andre to be when I was a kid. I got to be quite honest with you. I honestly believe this is what I was hoping for.
Then you were not familiar with either man as a child.
You are correct, sir. No, this was amazing. To me, this looks like a going away party for Bate. I don't know what you thought. They had the ending with Seven coming out to the ring there, and they had
Dunne,
yeah, and Pete Dunne came out, and everyone was chanting British Strong Style to them. It looks like a going away party because are they going to break up Mustache Mountain? Or, what are they doing? You know what I mean? But what an incredible match, though. Jesus Christ! I mean, I got to say, Walter was selling like Shawn Michaels. I mean, this guy took every single move. He was taking moves off the top rope. You got to admit, Tyler Bate has amazing strength. I mean, he's holding this monster up in a vertical suplex, and I mean, he's not being helped. This guy is muscling this guy up. He's got him on his back. He's twisting him into moves. Just a knockout punch of a match. I would say, even though I really, really enjoyed that triple tag match earlier, this one technically overall was the more polished, better match, and absolutely the match of the entire weekend, if not my match of the year so far. Really, really, really strong, and NXT UK can hang their hat on this one.
So that wraps up our coverage of NXT UK Cardiff, as well as New Japan Royal Quest and AEW All Out. I want to thank Chris Sheehan of the Cosmic Treadmill for joining us for these moments that we talked about this last card. I want to thank Mr. Chris Bailey of the Superblog Team-Up and Pat Mullin of our often frequent guest here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network and contributor to the Casual Heroes. Thank you guys for coming on and talking about this with me. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. Even though I just told the folks where you all come from, Chris, be a little bit more specific, Chris Sheehan. Tell them where they can find the Cosmic Treadmill.
You can find the Cosmic Treadmill at chrisandreggie.com. Also, our main place is Podbean, so chrisandreggie.podbean.com. But you can also now find us on that. What is that thing? What's that thing with the That's the one. I finally did it. I've been threatening to do it, and I finally did it. So you can now make points if you listen to us. So please listen to us, and you can get bonus points for listening to us right now. So do that thing. You can find my blog at chrisisoninfiniteearths.com, where I take a look at a different DC comic story every single day. And you can find me on Twitter at Ace Comics.
Thank you very much, Chris. We'll have to get together again soon. We've got a Clash of the Champions coming up. We've got Hell in the Cell. We've got another. You don't watch AEW, but we've got yeah, exactly. We've got all the things. So we'll have to get you on here sooner.
Absolutely, anytime.
Thank goodness for that. Chris Bailey, take me home, baby doll.
It's all in. It's all out. It's all over. That's what I've got to say about AEW. Goodbye. Anyway, I'll tell you what I'm going to plug. I'm going to plug the Superblog Team-Up. We really had a great time with the last event, which is Immortal. Jump onto Twitter. I am Charlton_Hero. Hit up the hashtag Superblog Team-Up or hashtag STBU. Check out all the great articles. And, of course, check out the one we've been talking about, Chris's Cosmic Treadmill, episode 26, where he talks to all us fatties and tells us how not to eat cookies and what we can do to create another loop in our belt. There you go.
Pat, if you love Pat Mullin the way I love Pat Mullin, Mr. Toxic Masculinity to you, you can find me and him doing a watch-along for Josh Barnett's Bloodsport on Saturday, September 14th. Me and him are going to sit down and watch it and bring you all the action from Josh Barnett's Bloodsport Part 2. Aside from that, Pat, where you be? Where you at?
You can hear me over at thecasualheroes.com. Believe it or not, we've actually recorded some shows. It's a minor miracle. You can hear myself and Gavin Napier do a pre-King of the Ring kickoff show discussing the brackets and how we would have booked it based on the likelihood of outcomes. And our brackets are already busted, so go figure. You can also hear us doing a quick Harley Race tribute show with 10 largely unknown or untested Harley Race factoids that we go over, so please go ahead and give that a listen. We'll be doing an updated show very shortly in the coming week where Gavin has gone all in on a booking simulator where he has asked me to help with the creative aspect of things while he does the detail work. So we're going to be rebooking some big scenarios from the 80s. We're probably starting with what happened if Paul Orndorff would have actually won the championship from Hulk Hogan, with several other scenarios coming into play.
I don't know what any of that is, so I'm really curious to see what you guys come up with. I'm very excited. In the meantime, in between time, myself and Robert Winfrey dropped Hannibal Season 3, yet another TV party tonight that you can check out in the archives. September is Onslaught month, all month long. Onslaught 1 has already dropped. Onslaught 2 is next week, followed by Onslaught 3, and then finally Onslaught 4 on September 23rd. And we end the month of September going right into Halloween month with Gotham by Gaslight, the seminal Batman Elseworlds tale, of which there will also be a TV party tonight about the animated feature of said show. Tomorrow on the Metal Hammer of Doom... there's no Metal Hammer of Doom tomorrow because I got a pet scan, a cat scan, an ass scan, your mother scan. I got all the scans going on. And then I'm going to Knotfest. I'm going to see Slipknot do a thing. So in the meantime, you'll get a second source material for this week, X-Men Legacy Volume 2, Invasive Exotics, because on Thursday, myself and Jesse Starcher will be reviewing Legion Season 3. What a weird show that was. And also just penciled in because Robert Winfrey likes to abuse me. We abuse each other. It's an abusive relationship, but we love it. I'm going to watch it for a second time. I watched it earlier today, and I'm going to watch it again, but this time with Robert Winfrey probably making fun of me the entire time, so that's fine. So check out, that's a Patreon exclusive. Check out our Patreon account. That's patreon.com/Radulich for all of our exclusive content that Chris Bailey insists you'll love. That's right, Chris.
Including NSFW photo shoots by me.
That's right.
Topless for everybody.
You can pay money to see Pat's ding-a-ling. So yes, that's where you'll find a show on the She-Hulk and why she's not just a gender-switched Hulk, you assholes. You'll find all of our commentaries, and you'll find our It Watch-Along. Nothing this Friday, but this Saturday, myself and Robert Winfrey will be doing alternative commentary for UFC 242 Khabib versus Poirier. Next week, we'll review It Chapter 2, The Metal Hammer of Doom returns with Killswitch Engage Atonement, and Alexis Hana of Honeysuckle Rose Creations is back on a TV party tonight with one of Pat Mullin's favorite animated features, She-Ra, Season 3. Isn't that right, Pat?
Yeah, Queers on Parade. Fantastic.
I set him up and he knocks him down.
I don't know these people. Let's escape Sheehan.
We're out.
And then, as I said, we'll be doing Bloodsport. Victor Curcado is back doing commentary with me on Andrew Shelby versus Jay Harris. That's September 21st. And if Winfrey is able to, he'll be joining us in the third man chair. That's enough plugs for now. I don't want to do 9.5 hours worth of plugs. So thank you to all these fine gentlemen for discussing some wrestling.
You're a damn liar. You do plugs for 9.5 hours.
For the damn liar that is me, for Mr. Toxic Masculinity that is Pat, and for Chris Bailey and Chris Sheehan, this has been TV Party Tonight. Be well, be safe, and behave.
He's in our world now, and this time, there's no escape from the Mind Flayer. Experience the most terrifying moments of Netflix's Stranger Things Seasons 2 and 3 at the world's premiere Halloween event. It's Universal's Halloween Horror Nights. Select nights September 6th through November 2nd. Save up to $52 on select nights. Visit HalloweenHorrorNights.com. Online only. Restrictions apply. Not recommended for children under 13. How do you escape an unstoppable evil when that evil is you? Step inside Jordan Peele's new original nightmare as Us comes to life at Universal's Halloween Horror Nights. Select nights September 6th through November 2nd. Experience Netflix's all-new Stranger Things, Dracula and the Wolfman, and more. Save up to $52 on select nights. Visit HalloweenHorrorNights.com. Online only. Restrictions apply. Not recommended for children under 13.